We're going to be looking for money. We're going to be looking for ways and means that we could develop our country. We don't need your help anymore, except when we really need it, you know? All right. We are still plagued by many, many issues. And one of them is domestic violence. We have Mr. Philcol Jeffers from the Ministry of National Mobilisation. We spoke about some of the issues that persons who are affected by domestic violence would face when they go to the police, for example. We spoke about the statistics. We spoke about what the law has in place. Of course, very briefly, because of the limited time that we have this morning. Right now, we're going to be talking about, and we touched on it quite a few times, we're going to be talking about what is available from the Ministry of National Mobilisation standpoint. If somebody is facing a domestic violence, can they reach out? Who could they reach out to? How could they reach out to you guys? You also touched on reinforcing that confidence that some people say they do not have in the system. You touched on that. So we're going to go off now on where can we go. So I am facing some issues right now. I don't know who to turn to. And sometimes the reason some people do not go forward and get assistance, yes, it might be ego. Yes, it might be fear. Yes, it might be that they're feeling very embarrassed to go forward. Sometimes it's the money because they feel that there's a cost attached to going to the ministry. All right. So you're going to deal with all of that. Where should persons go who are experiencing domestic violence?
All right. So first off, the telephone number that they can call is 453-2061. 453-2061. That's the Gender Affairs Division. All right. So you call that number and you will explain your situation and they would guide you through the process. If you are experiencing any form, any type of domestic violence and you just need to reach out, 453-2061 or 4210. Any of those two numbers get you direct help. Now, again, I reiterate that there are different types of services that are available. In some situation, let's say, for example, is a situation where economics is part of the issue and the man is not providing for the home, he's not providing for the children. When you come in and you have the conversation with the social worker, she can, based on the information you provide to her, utilize any of the services available within the ministry to provide support and or any of the external support services that we have. So like I mentioned, they have the police as there. We also have Marian House, we have the family court. All right.
Mhm.
Those are just some of who we have working with us. Additionally, if it is a situation where the children are being affected by whatever is happening, within the ministry, there's a child protection division that can step in to address those issues as well. But the issue is you have to be honest and truthful with the information you provide. Based on that information you provide, we will then find the necessary assistance to give to you so that you can feel safe and comfortable in your own space that you are in. Like I said, if it is a situation where your life is at threat and you have to be moved out from where you're living, you need to be honest with them and let them know what is happening, and they would be able to help. I'll share this with you, Crystal. I remember doing a program here on Extreme very, very early, and Fugitive and I were having this conversation because we go way back where these things are happening, where we dealt with children issues and so on. And a lady reached out to us via the phone, and I gave her my number and asked her to call me as soon as the program is finished. She called, she stated her situation. I then proceeded to call the necessary mechanism, have the mechanism in place. I think she was from one of these divisions that I mentioned. And when we activated the system, the police officer went, took her out from where she was, took her children with her, carried her to a safe house that we had. Would you believe that the young lady took her cell phone, called the boyfriend, and give him the direction to where the safe house is so that he can bring her some money? Now, that basically defeated the whole purpose of trying to put, that's why I said earlier on, issues like the safe houses and so on that are being used, I can't disclose those because for want of protection, all right?
Of course.
If I'm going to protect you from a situation you call me and say is happening, why would you want to use your cell phone to do that? Also, in one of the safe houses, the person who was in charge took away devices. that could make contact with outside until they got the go ahead from the police that it was okay for them to, have conversation because investigation was happening. And they made
Okay.
noise. Oh, I'm a big woman. I need to have access to my stuff. I need to do that. But when you give it to them, who are they calling? The same person who you're trying to protect them from to say, well, you can't reach me, because place or
Such
they
and such.
have me this place. That makes no sense. So while you provide this service on one hand, the same
Mhm.
persons who are victims on the other hand, sometimes they are the one who are helping to make the situation worse. I'm not blaming. I want to be
Mhm.
very clear. I'm not blaming, but I'm just being honest with the statement. All right. If you
Mhm.
ask me to protect you, you have to allow me to protect you. And that means if it is that you have to be away from the person who is the perpetrator of the crime, stay away from them for the time being until the law completes what it has to do. But for some of us, like I said, is the main breadwinner in the house. And if we talk to him and we put him away, um, oh, we have a struggle, nobody now will take care of me and all of that. But I'm saying to you, as it stands now, if it is that the person is the only breadwinner in the house, based on whatever situation is there, the ministry has programs that can address some of the concern that you'd have. So if it is a
Okay.
situation where you're going to need to have food, there is a situation that can be worked out for that.
So
Because
there's
there are different
assistance
things that happen
naturally.
from within the ministry.
Right. So there's assistance in terms of
I didn't hear.
finances. There is assistance in terms of finances or food, whatever the person might need coming from the
Both.
ministry. Right. So coming from the ministry.
Yeah,
So
they
they
get
don't
both. Both
worry
both are
about that.
available.
Right, right, right. So if you are listening, if you are a victim and you're thinking, oh my goodness, the person is the main breadwinner, I cannot leave, there are opportunities and there are things in place to assist you to cover that. So you do not
Yes.
have to worry about that. How long does that cover
What
the individual for? Are you able to share that information? Or it's a case by case basis.
It's a case by case basis, but you have assistant that goes from what we refer to as a one-off assistant. You
Uh
have
huh.
3 months, you have 6 months, but it is based on a case, how you present your case, what it is that is happening for that duration, and the officers who work with you would be able to decipher with you which is the best option for you. Unfortunately, there isn't a system yet where we can say, okay, we can put you into a work program that would be able to alleviate some of your issues so that you want to work. But I believe in the not too distant future, as we continue to build on these things and have these runs and also have persons feeding back into us from the community, we can see how these things can happen and how we can bring corporates in Vincent on board. But again, we have to be cognizant, Crystal, St. Vincent is a 2 by 4 country. All
Yes,
right.
it is.
I'm proud to be a Vincentian, but
Mhm.
I also want to say that sometimes we can be our own worst enemies.
Mm.
If I put you in a job, you're going to reach out, somebody's going to say, oh, but I see Crystal walking over by Extreme. And all along, the boyfriend didn't know that you are Extreme. Then he shows up to Extreme and creates a whole hurrah. So there's a lot of things that has to be taken into the mix where these things are concerned. Are we serious enough as a country where these things are concerned? I think we're getting there. And that is being as diplomatic as I can with it. Um,
Slowly, but
there's a
surely.
lot more that we can do. Yeah, there's a lot more that we can do, but it also requires us as Vincentian. And like you were saying this morning, where is our pride and nationality when it comes to being a Vincentian? We are glad to talk about the negative things of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and ban that on the World Wide Web. But when it comes to the positive things that are happening, when it comes to providing support to national issues, or that the government business, let the government deal with that. That is not
Mhm.
the case because what
Everyone's is.
affects one individual as a intention, it affects all of us.
Mhm.
All right. And it doesn't matter how you go about it and say, oh, I'm in this. Listen, you can be no income, low income, mid income, high income. We all suffer from very similar issues. All right. The only advantage that some persons have is that they have access to cash that can help them get the help quicker in some cases, or they can be flown out of St. Vincent to quote unquote greener pastures where they think they can get help. But for the average man, it affects all of us. It's like saying to a fisherman, boy, I ain't buying no fish from you. But guess what? At the end of the day, he still has to eat. But you go to the fish market and it might be the very same person fish that you're buying. So we need to get the mindset out that we are better than, or we are in a situation where it only affects a certain class and type of people. Because we have had that conversation already where people think it's only people who poor that domestic violence affect. It's only
Mm.
people who don't have money that domestic violence affects. Domestic violence affects everyone. There is something that is called economic abuse. All right, Crystal? Where
Mm-hmm.
I could be the person who makes the more money in the house. And because I know that, I leverage certain types of thing on you. Let me be even more practical. Have you ever
Yeah.
heard persons talk about counting salt?
1 or 2 times. Yeah.
Right. That is also abuse. Basically, what it is saying, you as the individual provide the food in the house, but you're saying to the wife or the woman, this is how it has to be cooked. This is what happened. You have to put this. Imagine you being the wife, the term that we're using now, the stay-at-home wife or the
Uh-huh.
stay-at-home spouse, and you're going to cook, and you decide you're going to do a nice pillow, and in doing your nice pillow, you realize you wanted to put a little bit of pigtail with the chicken back and whatever, and you didn't ask permission to put the pigtail in the pot. And he comes home, he enjoys it, but he's going to curse because you didn't ask permission to. That is abuse.
Yeah.
It's looking. I mean, it sounds simple, but those are the type of things that creates and starts the process. What type of seasoning go into a pot? Let me tell you one that shocked me. Some time ago, I was doing some research and found out a couple that was together for 39 years, married for 39 years, happy, have money. They divorced because for the 39 years, he was pushing out the toothpaste the wrong way. Obviously, all it required was a conversation to say, okay, babes, I would prefer if you don't do the toothpaste this way. Simple as that. And they went to court and they was granted the divorce. I mean,
This was
just think about it as it sounds like trivial issue.
over toothpaste. That's what you just said, because he was pushing out the toothpaste
Yeah,
the
yeah,
wrong way
over toothpaste.
for 39 years.
Okay, people, some persons want to push the toothpaste from the bottom up. All he did was just open the toothpaste and squeeze. That was it. Because
This
in
is
his head, it was just toothpaste. And these are the things that we think, because when we think domestic violence as well, Crystal, sometimes we think it is the hitting, it is the thumping or throwing
mhm.
words. It is sometimes what we do. I mean, I could throw a mix in here that would create a different story, but we don't have time for that. Um,
So,
when it comes to being a couple, I mean, withholding of certain privileges and all of those type of things, those are abuse.
mm-hmm.
But how do we fix those? We
Mm.
have to begin with the conversation of understanding each other, understanding that what a man likes and what a woman likes are not going to be the same. Um, Things that you have to do, and for me, I keep saying yes, counseling works, but you have to be willing to let the counseling work because
Okay.
counseling goes through a process. It's not I go into there and I talk and it's done. No, there are things that you have to do to make sure that you continue to do the right thing. Simple test, Crystal. I can
Mm-hmm.
ask you to tell me 5 things about your partner that is negative, and you'll do that off the bat. One, two, three, four, five. All right.
I the
If I
fifth.
ask you on the reverse, tell me 5 things
Oh,
you like about your partner,
oh.
and you would start one, two. By the time you get to three, you start thinking, and it takes you a while to get to the fifth number.
Oh,
All
it's
right,
general. Oh, I thought
because
you.
as a society, yeah, no, no, darling, I wasn't throwing you under the bus. um,
Dave,
no,
put on the.
it is something that happens, and that, but it is something that we have to be cognizant of, that these are the
Yeah.
things that are there, and once we go through the therapy, because when you try to figure out what the three and four and the fifth thing is, you start to think, because automatically society reminds you the negative things are more important. You mentioned this morning about what is happening now in St. Vincent and the Grenadines as compared to Barbados.
Mm-hmm.
It is a shame that we as Vincentians are not as patriotic as we ought to be.
Mm-hmm.
I said to somebody some time ago, I was in an event and watched our national anthem being played and people start walking around. You don't do that. That is something. that is very dear to us. When you grew up as a child, that is one of the things that made you even mention was our national anthem, right? And we look at those things as trivial, and then you bring that back into the home setting. So it is not that we are setting independence apart from domestic violence. They are one and the same. The mentality, the attitude that we take to deal with development issues are also part of the challenge that we have. Why we as Vincentian continue to behave the way we do, the way that we continue to think, and the way that we continue to look at issues from a national standpoint. We still see partisan politics as being the brainchild. If the ULP brings an issue and it is for development, for us also support the NDP are not in favor of doing it. But have we sat down and discussed the good of this piece of legislation or the good of this piece of idea that is being put on the table? For me, I don't care whether it's ULP. Huh?
I should bring it out there, man.
No, I'm saying I don't care which side of the fence you're on.
Yes. I like how you're tying in the two there. Find the link between what was previously being discussed to what is now. Things that we see as trivial are actually very, very important. And this could lend itself to domestic violence in the home. Now, about 12 more minutes before we head on to the top of the hour. Children. What are the rights of the child? A child feels that they are, and I wish we had the time to touch on domestic violence as it relates to children specifically, and how children could identify and identify when they are being abused, because some children don't even know that it's happening, like verbally and emotionally and psychologically as well. But a child is being abused and he or she knows that that is happening. What could that child do?
Okay, so the Child Protection Act have a number of things in it, and also the Domestic Violence Act has a number of duty bearers I had mentioned earlier. So if the person is at school, they can talk to their teacher. They can call you, Crystal, like I said before, on air and said, "Mommy or Daddy is abusing me. I don't want you to say it on air. I want help." You then have a responsibility to reach out to the ministry or to the police and inform them that this is happening. What happens then is that an investigation is then launched into what the claims are, and then it is taken from there. The child is protected throughout the entire process. So even though you Philcol called and said that he's been abused, when the police starts the investigation, they're not going to mention Philcol. They may ask where Philcol lives, and that would be about it. They do the investigation, the child is protected throughout the entire process. All right. They cannot at any point bring the child into anything that is going to put the child at risk. The teacher has a responsibility. They don't have to go to the principal to report the matter, but it is expected that they would inform the principal that they have observed this with the child. And so, and then you also look at now in the online environment, what I have noticed, and I am stunned by it at times, a lot of our parents are using our children to do babysitting while they should be in classes. That is abuse. Because I have been I was doing a session with one of the teachers. She asked me to speak on an issue, and in the height of our session, we were having a very interactive class. And here is the mother shouting out to the child, "You don't feed the picnic?" No, the child is in class. You are at home. Why is it that the child has to forego their learning to take care of a child that you should be taking care of as a parent? And these are the things that I'm getting at, and it agitates me very, very much, Crystal, because when our children suffer like this, because you as the parent think, oh, they're home so they could do whatever, they have a time that they should be in their classrooms, and that is abuse. Now, if we start looking at all of these things and how all of this affects the learning of our children, we can then see where the spiral effects are happening when it comes to things in our society. Now, if you look back at the statistics, it says that everybody had a primary education, right? But beyond a primary education, we have our children being prepared now for CSEC, CXC, A-levels, and they're doing these online. When they need the time to meet with their teachers, you have to allow them that time to meet with their teacher. Otherwise, they would have been in school. So what would you have done at that point in time? There are children who are coming into the classrooms, signing in, and they are gone because why? They have to go and do grocery, they have to go and make lunch because mommy say or daddy say. and it is affecting the child's learning. That is also abuse. All right. And this is where now I'm saying to teachers, you have a responsibility to report the matter and let the principal know this child has been absent from my class for the past 3 days. They are signing in, but they are not in class because we would need to help that situation. So even as we look at that, that is why as the ministry, we have launched this series of lives on VC3 to bring the necessary state actors to talk about roles and responsibilities, know what is happening, know what you're doing, so that
Yeah.
you, as the individual who is affected by whatever is happening, can reach out. You can say what is the issue, and we'll be able to work with you and make sure that you receive the necessary help that you want. And at the end of the day, we have a better St. Vincent and the Grenadines, not a better ULP, not a better NDP, a better St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That as we celebrate 42 years, Crystal, that we can be proud that we have accomplished much. I mean, I smile when you mentioned this morning about the whole issue with our plane landing, the plane landing, and the attitude that we have towards that. I am
Mm-hmm.
happy to know that these things are happening in an era when my children are in the process of development.
Mm-hmm.
So what I had to do, I had to jump on there to get to certain place. Now they have direct flights to go places. Why must I not celebrate that as of intention? Why must I look at it from a political lens? You understand?
Yes, please.
Why am I looking at the economic challenges that are there as a political issue when it is a reality? You mentioned it. We have the 1% tax that has gone on. How has that affected us as Vincentian? We're not discussing it that way. We're discussing it that ULP put on more tax, and not that St. Vincent and the Grenadines need to have a conversation about this added tax and how it is affecting us. Why is it important for it to be there or not to be there? Who is affected by it, and what solutions are we coming up with to provide that? And so these are the type of conversation that the ministry is engaging the general public in. Unfortunately, we can't go into the communities as we wish. So we are
Mm-hmm.
utilizing platforms like yours to be able to reach the masses and to talk to them. We are soon launching a program. We've already had the negotiations with Extreme, where we will be in studio very regular to look at child protection issues, so we can talk about those type of things that you're asking,
I
and to
love.
be able to just basically do education, because at the end of the day, you cannot go and say that you did not know. The law will still deal with you. All right. So ignorance of
Ignorance
the law
is
is no
no
excuse.
excuse. Ah, jinx.
And then,
Ah,
no man, great minds think alike.
or that. Or that. So, Philcol, we only have like 2 minutes left. All right.
Yes.
And I'm
Okay.
looking
So let me
forward
let
to
me let me do
check
this quickly.
us. So, yes. You said
Yes.
that you have something coming up this afternoon. So, persons want
This
more
evening.
information this
Yeah.
evening.
Tune into
Oh,
VC3.
evening. Yes.
Um, Yeah, tune into VC3 Live from 5 p.m. We would be discussing this evening the support systems that are available. We have on the panel this evening, we would have from the family court, we have Daniela Wiley James, she's a counselor there. We have Mr. Alton McPherson, he's a school attendant officer from the Ministry of Education, and Miss Jeannie Oliver, who is the director at the board of directors at Marion House, all of whom are working with the ministry. And this evening, we look at the impact of domestic violence on the support services that are available in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And also, to, as I mentioned before, we will be discussing later down with the 16 days of activism. We are going to be on Extreme with it. And each year when we do these programs, Extreme will usually provide us with a good support. And I want to thank Yolanda very much for your continued skills and abilities to help us have the best packages. Yeah. She always give us the best package deals to come on and share with St. Vincent and the Grenadines the information. And I want to thank you again, Crystal, for this opportunity this morning that we can look at these things, and feel free at any time to reach out if you need any assistance with this type of
So,
information. And this
so
Thursday, yeah, man. Well, just give me heads up ahead of time,
you
and
done
I'll be able
you
to.
said earlier, so I taking that and running with it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, I have no problem with that. I have no absolutely no problem with that. It's an opportunity for the ministry to sell itself, and so whatever opportunity is provided, I welcome it, and I am grateful for that. And on behalf of the Honorable Minister and the Permanent Secretary, again, thanks to Extreme, thanks to you, and we look forward to a fruitful discussion this evening. And when we here on Extreme FM, thanks.
All right. Thank you so much, Philcol. Have a wonderful day. And shout out to the entire staff down there, the Ministry of, the entire ministry. All right. From the
Thank
cleaner
you,
straight up.
thank you.
it up. You're welcome. Have a wonderful day. And thank you so much for taking
Everybody.
it. All right. All right. Wonderful. All
All
right. So
right.
we're going to live on Facebook and YouTube and